Hi, my name is Kenna Knight, and I am going to share with you a presentation called Prepare to Care. Prepare to Care is a program that is provided through AARP and the University of Kentucky Cooperative Extension Service. Prepare to Care offers many resources that are available to you. One of those resources that you are receiving is a booklet that you received in your packet or is also available through the AARP website or through your local extension office. That guide that I will refer to quite frequently during this presentation is called Prepare to Care, a planning guide for families. And that is an AARP publication. Today, we are going to talk about how prepared you are to care. Listen to these statements. Do you provide household tasks for an individual? Cleaning, yard work? Do you help an individual with medication? Do you cook or buy food or run errands for an individual? Do you drive an individual to appointments, such as a hair appointment or a doctor's appointment? Do you provide care through bathing or dressing an individual? Do you pay someone's bills or offer financial support for an individual? Do you make medical decisions and coverage about health insurance? Do you provide emotional support for an individual? Do you communicate with health professionals for an individual? Do you worry about an individual's safety? If you've answered yes to any of those questions, you are a family caregiver. You are wearing one of those many hats that are mentioned in this slide. And there are additional hats that aren't even mentioned that you could be wearing. Rosalind Carter said there are 4 types of people in the world: those who have been caregivers, those who are currently caregivers, and those who will be caregivers, and those who will need caregivers. Caregiving, by definition, is help or services provided for the well-being of individuals who cannot perform such activities themselves. There are usually formal caregivers, which are those who are usually paid for the service they are providing, and informal caregivers. Those are those unpaid ones. Those are those individuals like yourself or friends or family members. The dynamics of caregivers are changing. 34.2 million Americans are caregivers to adults 50 or older. If you put that in a different way of thinking, that's 14% of the United States households reported that at least one individual in that county is a caregiver or has been a caregiver in the last 12 months. 60% of those caregivers are females, and on average, the individual is basically a full-time or a part-time employer in a sense to that person they're caregiving for. That means they're spending 24 to 25 hours a week and up to 40 hours a week providing that care. And most of those individuals have done that for multiple years, 4 years or more. The face is also changing of who those caregivers are. About half of the family caregivers are 75 years of age or older. This means that the caregivers are often dealing with not only the health problems of the person they are caring for, but they are also managing their own age-related issues. 47% of those are 75 or older. And about 7 million Americans identified as long distant caregivers, which adds a whole nother dimension to that caregiving role that individual might be playing. It's very easy for me maybe to care for my parents because they live next door to me. It's much harder to care for those individuals if they live out of state, a couple states away, or even a couple counties away, even adds some difficulty into the situation. So the question I want to ask you today is, how prepared are you? There are many benefits in being prepared. And are you prepared to do that? And what benefits are associated with being prepared? It is much easier to face a crisis when you're prepared than when you're in the middle of the crisis. And that's what we want to try to avoid. Being in the crisis before we start identifying some of those issues on where we need to be better prepared when caring for someone. So being prepared gives us more option, gives us more control, reduces the stress on the family member you're caring for, as well as the member that is caring for them. There's a better chance of receiving the preferred care or the care that that individual might want to have. And it really enhances the well-being of everybody involved. So are you prepared? And how can you become prepared? Future care planning or long-term care planning refers to actions of preparation for a future time when help with activities of daily living may be needed. So, are you prepared to help someone? And how might you better be prepared? In that book that I referred to in the very first slide, Prepare to Care, a planning guide for families through AARP, it discuss 5 steps in that preparing yourself to care. First step is starting the conversation. Second is forming your team. Third is making a plan. Fourth is finding support that you might need. And fifth is the care that for caring for yourself. And today we're going to look at each of those steps just a tiny bit and know that there's a lot of additional information in that guide that you can always refer back to and read. First step is starting the conversation, probably the hardest step. It's very hard sometimes because um, it's a sensitive topic. It's a very sensitive topic that you're going to be discussing with that individual. And you want to do it before they're in a health condition that they might not be able to do it in. So it is better to start that conversation way before you're even in that role of giving the care. So starting the conversation is step one. It's not easy in that role of, or some tips maybe to help you in starting that conversation is looking for that appropriate opening. What is when you have that opportunity to start that conversation, um, it could come from a simple talking about somebody else that's in the middle of the crisis and making sure that loved one you're talking to knows you want to be prepared when this might happen to you, to them or you in that role as a caregiver. That could open the door for the conversation. You could be planning your own estate planning and want to talk to them about what they, get some advice from them, see what they already have in place. There are a lot of opportunities that you just need to look for that could open that initial door for having that conversation. In that first thought of starting up that conversation, respect your relative's wishes and kind of size up your situation. Um, Things you're going to have to talk about aren't going to be comfortable in that conversation. One of the most uncomfortable conversations you maybe are going to have based on the individual that you're going to trying to prepare to care for is finances. Nobody likes to talk about your finances. It's a very sensitive topic to talk about. They might be more comfortable talking to someone besides you who start that conversation with them about their finances. But in that conversation, you want to kind of review what bank accounts they have, what investments they have, what insurance coverage they have, any additional, even if they're not willing to have that conversation with you, have the conversation of them writing it down somewhere that you can access if you need to. Because finances is a tricky conversation to have with them, and not everyone is going to be as willing to share as others might be. So just even having them have it written down somewhere where you have knowledge of where to find it is a start in that conversation. You could hit resistance. They might not want to talk to you the first time, then try again the next time the door opens. You know how the old saying goes, try, and try again. If you cannot even start that conversation. Maybe look for others who might be able to bridge that conversation for you that they might be more willing to open up to. That guide that I told you about, the AARP Prepared to Care Family Guide, there's a whole checklist that you can use to help you determine that conversation and even starting that conversation. This is an example of what's on page 23 in that book. Once you've opened up the door and your family member or the individual you're going to care for seems to have, be a little willing to at least discuss and have that conversation with you, you want to form your team. No matter what, you want to form a team that's going to help when that care is needed for that individual. Caring for a family member should not be the sole role of one person, even if you're an only child. You should be able to recruit friends and other individuals that might be able to help with you and help form that team. When you're forming that team, you want to look for individuals who might live nearby. Some might live at a distance that can handle some things, that roles that'll be assigned later on, but you want to have someone close, and far away is okay as well, but you really need to make sure there's individuals nearby to help, even if you only have a long distance relationship with the one you're caring for. You want to identify those tasks, and you want to kind of look at the talents that each of those team members may have. Once you have formed your team, you want to determine the number of people you think you need on it and assign those roles. And there's information in that guide that'll help assign those roles that we'll talk about in a few minutes. Step 3 is making the plan. So making the plan, now that you have your team, that'll help provide that caregiving when the caregiving is needed, or if it's needed at the current moment, it's the time to start building that plan. It's trying to put that plan together. And it doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be super in depth. It's just making sure everybody on that team knows the role that they're going to play as part of that team, and making sure everything is taken care of in caregiving for the individual that you are going to be caregiving for. So hold a team meeting. Make sure the loved ones that you're providing that care for is part of that team meeting. Make sure they're comfortable with who's assigned to those roles in those team meetings. Delegate responsibilities. Don't let one person volunteer to do it all, because that will be too cumbersome for that individual. So delegate responsibilities. Make sure that everyone is informed, and make sure during that first initial team meeting, someone is taking good notes. Your AARP book or Family Guide to Prepare to Care will help you with that. This is only one page, and this is page like 24 through 33. There's several pages in that book that breaks down everything that you might need to discuss in that team meeting, from home maintenance and living situations to personal care. And it'll let you identify who's the point person for that individual activity or item of care that needs to be taken care of. So take advantage of that assessment. You might not need it all, but take advantage of the assessment and the tools that you need as part of it. Step 4 is, besides, once you have assigned the point persons, you've had your team meeting, the person you're going to be giving care for is ready and willing to help you be prepared to care for them. Let's look at what other resources might be out there and find additional support that you might be able to tap into when additional needs might be needed. Look for those local community resources. Consult a professional to help you find support, whether it's with finances or healthcare, whatever it might be. Make sure you're consulting and know the support that is out there through the resources that are available to you. There are local resources through the state of Kentucky that you might even want to tap into. AARP has regional, will point you to the regional offices or regional sites within your area that you are living in. The state of Kentucky also has area agencies on aging website that you might even be able to find some additional resources on. Some other additional resources that might offer support for you is the Department of Health and Human Services, Medicare, National Care Planning Council, and the National Clearinghouse for Long-Term Care. All of these are additional resources that might be beneficial to you to look at to determine what services are out there that you might need to tap into from some of these local agencies and resource providers. And step 5, which is probably the most important part of being prepared to care, is taking care of yourself. Caring for another individual can be overwhelming. Don't be afraid or too proud to ask for help. Tap into the resources and services that are out there and available for you. Use technology. Talk to your employer. See what resources are provided to you through your employer. You might have to look into family medical leave or other benefits that might be provided through your employer as well in your caring for an individual. Review your own finances. Talk to your healthcare professional. Make sure they know that you are in the role of caregiving, because the role of caregiving can add stress to your life, and there might be some things that they can help you identify and help you understand about yourself in that process of caring for someone else, and to make sure you're taking care of yourself and take time for you. In almost every program that you come to through the Cooperative Extension Office, we tell you to sleep, eat right, do physical activity, because we know that and be social and make sure you're keeping up with social engagements, because we know those are the steps that you need to take care of yourself. So make sure you don't neglect step 5 in the process of preparing yourself to care, or when you're in that process of caring, make sure you take time to care for yourself. I know this was a very quick overview. I encourage you to read through the guide, Prepare to Care, a planning guide for families through AARP. I would encourage you to sit down with the individual that you will be caring for, or in the process of caring for right now. It is a very good tool that has been put together for you to use to help you be better prepared to care for your family members or friends that you might be challenged to care with later on in life. I encourage you, if you have any questions over this presentation, to reach out to your cooperative extension service within your county. If you need help locating the guide through AARP, reach out to your local extension service as well. And don't ever hesitate to reach out to myself if you need more information on the Prepare to Care program. Thank you and have a great day.